Hey everybody, it's Big Daddy, and I'll tell you, I always promise our viewers, our listeners, that I will bring my friends on and people that really are in the game, that understand the game, know how to explain the game, know how to teach it, have been there, done it, seen it, done it all. So our next guest is a friend of mine and fellow Maryland Terrapin too. So let's everyone say hello to Tina Cervasio. How you doing, Tina?
Hey, Rick. It is an honor that you call me one of your friends. You know, Big Daddy and Friends. I am so honored to be part of that group. So thank you so much for having me on.
Well, listen, like we joked around before, now you have the novice in me interviewing the professional in you. So
I don't know if I'm the professional. No, you've been at this a long time. You are a pro.
well, thank you. But you're really you want to laugh. I watch you every morning because I am in the gym at 6:30. So
Yes.
I see you come on about 6:45 around there, then you're back on, I guess, 7:15. I kind of have the whole schedule down because I'm on the elliptical or the stair mill between 30 minutes to an hour, probably about 5 to 6 days a week.
Well, first of all, good for you. That is awesome.
Yeah.
And next week, Wednesday and Thursday, I'll be at Giants and then Jets practice. So, as they open up their training camps. So that'll be right up your alley.
Right up my alley. So you may see me, what do you call it, tiptoeing through the tulips over there somewhere, both places.
Try to get a peek. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, but anyway, let's tell everybody how the love for sports started for you.
Well, I grew up in a family that there were a lot of coaches. So my mother's side of the family, they were all in education. So they were teachers, principals, professors. My mother was a teacher, became a principal. And it was all of her cousins, including her brother. Everybody was a coach in some capacity. Who was a softball coach, basketball coach, high school, college level. Then a crew coach. Then on my father's side, we had my uncle was a crew coach, a football coach, and a wrestling coach. I apologize to landscapers outside if they're getting picked up on this interview. So I grew up just going to sport games. And my godfather, my father's best friend from high school, he was a very popular high school football coach. Johnson S.P. coached at Belleville High School in Belleville, New Jersey. They had some great, championship run years. They would play their postseason at Giant Stadium. They would have the big New Jersey playoffs there. And so I spent most of my childhood going to games because we're a big Italian family and, everybody's got to support the cousins and this extended cousin and the second cousin. So we would go to freshman football games on Friday night. On Saturday morning, we'd be at, just sophomore basketball game. And then at night, in the afternoon, we'd go to a football game. So we were always going to games. And one of my first favorite athlete was Nadia Comaneci because I was a little girl and I watched the Olympics in 1976. I was a baby, but I just remember seeing her flipping and I wanted to flip and roll and tumble. So she was my first favorite athlete. My second favorite athlete was a high school basketball player from Belleville, New Jersey by the name of Jennifer Apicella. I was, I think, 6th grade or something like that. My dad took me to her game to watch her score her 1,000th point. And we're talking about a high school gym that was jam-packed. Everyone's cheering for this young girl in high school who made this amazing milestone. So like my first favorite athletes weren't like big names when I was growing up, like Reggie Jackson or Lawrence Taylor. I did, obviously like them and cheered for them when I got to know who they were and what they were doing out there on the fields. But those are my early memories. And that's how I became just a huge fan of sports. And my dad also would take us, he played football at Cornell, and we would go to his homecoming games. We would go see Cornell play Princeton or Cornell go play Columbia. So I was always going to games as a little girl. And then in 6th grade, our family trip was to the Rose Bowl. We went to Pasadena, California, and we did the whole week leading up to the Rose Bowl. We went to Disneyland. We went to the Rose Parade, and then we went to the game. It was UCLA versus Iowa. UCLA won, but we were staying in the same hotel as a lot of the Iowa players' families. So we got to know parents and brothers and sisters and the cheerleaders, and I learned so much about the game of football and who to cheer for, and what to cheer for, why this was so important. And that day, my dad says, you're going to be in middle school next year. You should start looking for classes and a job that would get you involved in sports. You want to find something that you love to do and get somebody to pay you for it. So now I get to watch games and somebody pays me for it.
No, it's, obviously I follow your career, and I know you do the games, the sideline reporting for CBS, and I always, I've been to West Point, so I've seen you up there a couple times, and before we actually knew each other, and then I've watched you on TV, so I'm like, oh, look at her, Tina doing her thing, and I know one thing up at West Point, they know how to tailgate up there, man. I'm like,
and
whoa.
just that atmosphere is just so phenomenal. Of course, last year there were no fans. It was only the cadets, but fans, I think, will be allowed back this year. I don't know the official protocols, but it's going to be, that place is one of the best places to watch a football game. It is so loud. And we're not talking 100,000 people,
No.
With 38,000 or whatever. It is so loud in that place. It is just phenomenal.
I've actually, I played at Mikey Stadium when I went to prep school.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, we played the JV, and I'll tell you, I had some nasty turf burns from back in the day. That was old. The old AstroTurf was on that thing, so it was like playing on the street with just a carpet above it.
Oh my gosh!
And I've always, I follow the academies. I've always had an interest in both Army and Navy.
Yes.
And it's impressive how sometimes, not most of the times, they're the underdog, and then they go in and they outwill. They out-hustle, they outplay teams, and they beat teams that they're not supposed to beat.
And they beat teams where players are twice their size. Yeah. And when I go from the Army sideline to especially when they play Duke or Wake Forest, when they bring in the big schools, I forget how big, a Division I Power 5 school player is, because I'm always with the Army guys. It's I'm taller than most of their quarterbacks. So it's just when I go with the others, and then the Army wins, and Army ends up winning that game at home at Mikey Stadium, going undefeated. Two of the 3 seasons I've been doing Army football on the sidelines at West Point, they went undefeated at home. And so it's fascinating. And they're just such incredible young men, and they keep in touch with me when they graduate, and they go into training, and they're already serving their country. It's fascinating.
I'll tell you, they better keep a permanent seat for you there. Never let you leave.
I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. I'll be there 9/11 this year. There's a game on September 11th at Mikey Stadium. So that's going to be a powerful day, because I've got some stories that I've collected over the last couple of years of kids that were, cadets at the time when September 11th happened, and they had family members in the towers, or, working at the Pentagon, or whatever the case may be. And they were already going to serve their country. So now it gave them more purpose, just some incredible stories, just straight from that campus up there in West Point, New York.
9/11's always sticks with me, because my birthday's on the 12th.
Oh, wow.
And 9/11, I was at the Giants-Broncos game.
I'm doing a story on that this year, yeah.
So I never forget that day, obviously due to the tragedy, and also due to where I was stuck there until Thursday.
Yes. I was just so you couldn't get home on Tuesday. Yep.
I could not get home, and it was funny because my friend who was with me, he left on an early 6 a.m. flight to get back to New York, and he called me from the airport. He's like, dude, do not cancel the room, whatever you do. And I'm like, why? What's wrong? And he goes, turn on the TV.
Wow.
Boom. I'm watching this thing on the news going, oh, my God.
Yeah.
So always sticks with me that time frame. But so, I did my research, and I tell you, I learned a lot about you. And it's impressive, some of the things that, you've done. I had to write them. Listen, I have about 3 pages of notes that I have to write down.
Please.
Like, wow, Tina's got it going on.
Just do it. Just trying to work, just to keep working. And, some jobs I get, some jobs I don't get, but I've been lucky to be at some great events.
You've, one thing that I know you have to be proud of is being part of winning 7 Emmy Awards.
Well, a lot of credit just goes to the producers and the editors that surrounded me at MSG Network. Those were all at MSG Network, and they're just the best of the best. Yeah. And when you're covering the Knicks, you have opportunities, like these moments will happen that you can't plan for, and you can't even create a story, or I'm going to do an interview on somebody. But I was there when Kobe Bryant scored 61 points. It was insane. And it was actually a national game that night because, of course, anytime the Lakers were coming to New York City, ESPN or TNT are also going to jump on the game. But we were able to do a side by side. So I could not interview Kobe. He went to the national network. He was getting that big interview there. But I was able to interview Lamar Odom. And it was a poignant interview. We always would get Lamar, and this was before his big troubles, because he was from Queens. And, he was a local guy. He grew up watching MSG. So we would love to talk to Lamar because he'd like talking to us. But it was really poignant, some of the things he said to me in that interview. And I mean, that's how you win Emmys. It's right time, right situation. And you're surrounded. We were a great team. A lot of those producers and of course, I mean, Mike Breen and Clyde Frazier leading the way on those broadcasts. Yeah. So those were just some examples and great opportunities that I was able to be a part of.
So one of the things that really impressed me was that you have a World Series ring.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
It's not from the Yankees.
No, I know. I was going to let you say it. I figure I'll let it's funny. Just like I have a Super Bowl ring from the Giants. And here I am. I work with, the last 20, 30, close to 30 years now with players from all over the place. And, I catch flack here and there, hey, you wouldn't be here if the Giants weren't playing or this and that and whatnot. But, listen, those are accomplishments that, hey, you take that with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And, it's a proud moment that you get to share with your family. And it's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I have a Red Sox World Series ring from the 2007 championship. And I was there for I think I was there after the 162 games. I think I did 160. It was a long season, 6 to 7 weeks of spring training. And then, of course, you have the 4 weeks of the postseason. It was a unique group. We had Daisuke Matsuzaka, the Japanese pitcher, throwing the gyro ball that year. Then you have a knuckleball pitcher and Tim Wakefield and, legends like, Kurt Schilling. He almost had a no-hitter. He had a one-hitter, gave up a hit in the bottom of the ninth inning out in Oakland. I mean, I had some incredible experiences that year. Had to go through covering a story that John Lester, when he was diagnosed with cancer, this was a rookie. And actually was in his second year. He was in his second year in 2007. And I mean, talk about birth by fire. I mean, this was one of my first big jobs, and I'm covering a player that's been diagnosed with leukemia. It was just insane. So it was an incredible experience to be a part of. And again, credit to the Red Sox for winning the World Series. I didn't take an at-bat or make a great play, but I was there for the ride and helped report it.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't do any of those things either. I just I was at the right place at the right time. It's like, you know what? Where's Waldo? That was kind of like the big joke, and everybody used to say, man, who is that big guy? Big Daddy. Oh, that's just Big Daddy, and it was funny. You had to kind of let people know what you did, and that's what I used to do. I'd be like, look, I'm an insurance guy. Really? What is this? How does this all fall in the...
Yeah, people don't realize that the different type of insurance that players need, that professional athletes need. Yeah,
and it's funny because, you're, the big joke was obviously the affiliation I had with, Umberto's Pizzeria, and we were feeding the Giants, and it got out of control because, here we are now taking the pizza to Indianapolis in 2011. And
superstitious.
And it was funny, keeping the tradition and superstition alive. I remember I had gone down to Indy the week before, in the beginning of the week, because I was doing stuff with Fox and, I was getting ready for all that. But I happened to meet our mutual friend Dino, the chef at
Yes.
Ray's, and Umberto's son, Gaetano. I met them at the airport when they arrived with the pizza.
Oh, my goodness.
It was hilarious because...
Is any of this on video, Rich?
Yes.
It is.
Yes. You could find that. It's hilarious. I had run into Adam Schefter on Wednesday, and we were BSing, and I said, Adam, how I always bring the pizza over to practice on Fridays for the linemen? I said, all the superstitious guys said, you got to bring it to Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. He goes, are you kidding me? I go, no, it will be on a flight, Friday morning, leaving Long Island. It got an escort all the way
it's important stuff.
To the airport. And I'll never forget, while they're in the air, I get a phone call. And the reason I'm doing this is because the son-in-law said to me, we just put up the white flag. And I said, what do you mean the white flag? We give up. I go, what do you mean you give up? We have no pizza to sell the rest of the day. We went all the dough that was needed to fulfill all the orders from all the networks being there at 6 a.m. to show everybody that, Umberto's was sending pizza to the Giants went viral. I mean, viral. And, I never forget, I have this memory in my head that when we showed up to practice in Indianapolis with this pizza, I'll never forget John Mara looking at me like I had 3 heads. And he said to me, he goes, "You're really crazy." I said, "No, we've got to win,
So you're serving as players.
Yeah, we're and I had told Steve Tisch, but I didn't tell anybody else. So it was kind of funny. When all of a sudden we went in, Dino and I walk in with Gaetano. All of a sudden everybody's like, pizza's here, blah blah. And,
we can win now.
Guys were like, we didn't have enough because now the whole team wanted it.
Oh, that's great.
It was really mostly the lineman went first. Eli got his own 2 sandwiches. That was the rule. And then everybody else, as the lineman went first, whatever was left, anybody could have it. And the equipment guys. So, those are stories that always have me smile and bring back a lot of great memories.
Great memories.
Look, a lot of Jets fans, and they haven't seen a Super Bowl. I've been fortunate to be able to see the Giants, win 2. Or no, win 4.
Yeah, you see how you were there for all 4. That's great. And go to 5 total, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and lose 1, the one when they lost to Baltimore. I mean, it was that was a tough. I didn't get to see when they beat the Buffalo Bills or when they beat the Broncos, which obviously the Bills game, that was the game of games.
Right.
I watched it on TV, but I was fortunate to see the 2, 2007 and 2011 be a part of those, and I went to home and away games. That's what, made it interesting and a lot of fun. And I could say I'm blessed and fortunate at the same time being able to do what you say, you're doing what you love to do and it's a lot of fun and it's great. And now I add more flavor to my cake by doing this kind of stuff,
And you can share the memories for those of them that didn't know that side of you or that part about your life.
Yeah.
So
it's great and it's fun. It's a lot of. So what's next for Tina? What do you give? I don't know. I say give a little insight or a little, I don't know, secret or something.
I wish there was a secret. I'll tell you what, I am grateful just to make a public announcement right now for the job situation that I'm in, because so many people lost their jobs or, there weren't games for a while there, or there are games, but they're using less people because you can't travel. I mean, I have worked more since COVID hit back on March 11th, 2020, than I ever have. And we're talking every day. My station, Fox 5 in New York City, the local station, wanted me on, even when there weren't games. I was doing stories. Well, what were players doing without games? I mean, I had, Brandon Nimmo and Jeff McNeil on their phones doing Zooms with me, kind of checking in with those guys stuck in Port St. Lucie. Did all kinds of stories with great people, interviews with Lou Lamoriello and just great men and women of in our area that are involved in sports and with what was going on. And coaches checked in, players checked in, commissioners, you name it, just to keep people updated with what was happening. And so it was, and then there were just random stories. I got to discover a kid from St. Francis College in Brooklyn. He was a junior at the time, basketball player. Their season's cut short. They don't get to go into the tournament. And he went around New York City looking for the few rims that were left on backboards. I mean, this is a playground, asphalt basketball city, but they took the rims down because they didn't want people congregating and spreading COVID. And he found a couple rims, and he was one of those trick shot guys. And that was one of my most liked stories I did during the pandemic, was videos I collected, did an interview with me and sent me videos that he had put on social media. His stuff went viral. And don't get me wrong, our fellow Terp, Scott Van Pelt, he did the story too. But it was cool because but this kid's in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Like he's one of our local kids. And while his stuff went viral, you know, he's a kid that we get to go see in games when you're allowed to go to games, you know, local kids. So that was fun to do different stories like that. So I'm just grateful that I was able to work every day. It was hard for me to take off because like something would always happen when I would take off. You know, a sport would come back or somebody would opt out this season, a big story like Marcus Stroman last year, you know, summer 2020 or whatever the case may be. So, you know, there was just all these big stories, even though there weren't games. So I was just grateful to be in a position where I was able to do those games. And then of all the teams in the country, Rich, I'm covering one of the military academies who are based on natural bubbles. And they just blocked everybody else from the rest of the country out. They kept the cadets and the midshipmen and the cadets of Air Force on their bases. And I had to go in and get tested twice and quarantine. And I was able to do games on the sidelines at both Mikey Stadium. And I went down to Annapolis and did a Navy game. And I did the Army Navy game for Westwood One. And I did pregame for CBS Sports Network. So I was so lucky in a year where so many people lost their jobs or just were shut down because there weren't games or games were being done by remote. So a lot of my colleagues that are sideline reporters lost those opportunities. I worked more. So, you know, thank God, that was a blessing and just quite an experience over the last year and a half plus. So coming up, so what do we got this year? So going back to Army, very excited about that. I've added UConn to my schedule. So when UConn and they didn't play last year, and Randy Edsall, can't wait to talk to him. He, you know, left UConn, coached at Maryland. He was a quarterback at Syracuse. So my sister went to Syracuse. I went to Maryland. UConn's one of my neighboring schools here in the tri-state area. And they didn't have a season last year. So I cannot wait to get back up there for their first game back on September 4th, doing a couple of home games there. So just so lucky to be able to have my full-time job at Fox 5, to have my own show on Sunday nights, and that they allow me to work at CBS Sports Network as well and do this college football and sometimes host We Need to Talk. So I'm just super grateful. And, you know, I'm either going to be on CBS Sports Network or Channel 5 pretty much every day starting September 4th. So
Well,
like literally every day, you know, so if I'm not on Channel 5, check CBS Sports Network and you'll find me there.
you can't miss Tina.
I'm so excited, though. I'm excited. So I'm really grateful, and I do feel blessed for these opportunities.
That's incredible. That's great. I know Randy Edsall since he was a GA.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I got to tell him that.
Oh, yeah, you can tell. He knows our family. He knows my brother. You know, my brother Jimmy is.
We're going to laugh. Meanwhile, I don't know if you saw this. I have a glare because of the sunlight coming in my house. Look what I have right on my bookcase. This has been here. This was my set for a while when I was working from home. I worked from home for quite a bit. And and I always had my Maryland helmet. And I went to interview Noah Vedral, the quarterback from Rutgers. He was one of my guests. He was, you know, great. Getting into their spring game. And when they announced a full capacity at their stadium, and he's like, wait, is that a Maryland helmet? I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Big Ten opponent. I went, I'm a Terp. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I have the old red helmet with the white lettering. You know,
with the Terps, the signature. Yeah.
The signature one. And, but it's funny, Randy, getting back to Randy, you know, he knows, my next door neighbor growing up was a starting center on the Sugar Bowl team that went 11-0.
Oh, no way.
So I know Randy and, you know, and Doug Marrone, who used to be the head coach of the Jaguars.
Yeah.
He's at the University of Alabama. So talk about, yeah, you know, he'll be there 2 years and probably end up coaching somewhere else, you know, 'cause whenever Nick gets a guy, he seems to, it's like the Belichick syndrome, you know, they both have that thing, but, you know, it's a great world that we're in. And like you say, I feel the same way. I'm blessed and privileged, and some of the relationships that you develop along the way and you keep, and it's great. So, you know, my hat's off to you, because like I said, I learned a lot about you. And, you know, the only time that we've ever I've been blessed, and to all the viewers and listeners out there, Tina interviewed me 2 years ago when I was an MC for an orthopedic foundation event. And we were fortunate and blessed to have it at Rayo's, which, you know, was
Hard to get into.
Place to get into, and we, Dino was gracious to get us in, and we had our buddy Kevin Weeks there, so we had a really
so fun
mix. And I think that was probably one of the highlights of my career of being interviewed, because good people, good food, and good time, and
for a good cause. We were promoting a good cause in all of that, and it was so cool to be with you. Both of us being Terps, and Kevin Weeks is just such a gem. I was watching him the other night in the expansion draft. He's such a great guy. And then of course, Dino, and he showed, we're eating the meatballs, and I'm in the kitchen at Rayo's. Who knew? I was never there before, and there I am in the kitchen. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a lot of people just can't even get in the doorway, and we're in the kitchen getting sauce on each other. And
I'm a sportscaster. Like the affiliation, how that ended up is just a riot. It's such a New York thing. And
and it's funny because so many people that wish they could do what we did that day, as from the media side of it, because you don't really let TV and entertainment and all that go on in there. So it was great to do that, and that's the second time I've gotten to do that. I the first time I had there was a show on Fox Business. It was called Happy Hour. And, and Rebecca Gomez, who was one of the hosts, she was a Maryland grad, so we used to always joke around. And we did it the year of 2007. We went in there, and I had Tuck with me, and I had.
I was going to say that was the big Super Bowl year, sure.
I had O.C. Umanora, and he brought one of his buddies, Oguglier, who used to play for the Bears at the time, and we had a sit down. And
you're talking about Wale, right? That used to play for the Bears. So you're not going to believe this. He is my guest on Sports Extra next Sunday.
Oh wow! Well, you should.
Yes, because he's.
You could ask. You could ask him, because he didn't know what it was all about to be there, and all of a sudden, hey, you're. And I wasn't even in the segment. I just set the whole thing up.
Mm-hmm.
And, the table was it was like the table we sat at, where you can only have so many seats.
Right.
You got to get the A-listers in there. So I sat in the back and watched. And hey, look, as long as I got my meatballs and whatever, I didn't care. You guys can call all you want. So. But
it's such a small world. That's so great.
Yeah. So, all right. So here's the fun part of the show. I let you ask me something that maybe you want to know. You don't, whatever.
I got a couple questions. So I don't even know if you can answer this one. So are you allowed to say who your clients are?
I do.
I'm curious, like who on the Jets and who on the Giants you have, because I'm going to be, obviously at their practices soon.
What we do is, depending on some of them, because obviously there's, HIPAA laws and all that.
Right, that's why I was curious.
So sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. As of last year, we started not to, because we were getting, people would get confused when I would say, hey, my client, and then all of a sudden, what are you, an agent now?
Right.
So one of the things where it's more word of mouth, where I do it individually.
Yeah. So here's my question. What do you think of the Giants this year? We were talking about the Nick Saban, Bill Belichick coaching tree. Joe Judge is part of both of them. And now, this is his second year. And I like what they did with the draft. I like how they got Kenny Golladay. I don't know what's going on with Saquon, but what do you think?
You know what? I bleed blue, so I'm always positive. Even when you may think the worst, I always try to find a positive.
Me too.
And I go in and I say to myself, listen, everyone's 0-0. Everyone has to go to training camp. Everyone has to play. Well, now I think it's two preseason games, or three, whatever it is. And everyone has to play on Sunday or Monday, whenever this year it starts on a Thursday. And I feel very good about Daniel Jones. It's funny. I have a special relationship with him, or affiliation, so to speak. When he was coming out, and here's a story that a lot of people don't know. When he was coming out, of high school, he was on his way to Princeton. Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that. Because I know the whole Duke story. Of course, he had Eli and Peyton's coach, and I think that story.
My brother was the defense coordinator at Princeton, and my brother recruited him. So, my brother was all jacked up and, this and that. We got this great quarterback coming, blah, 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 blah. Well, then Daniel Jones calls him and gives him the bad news on Duke. Well, 3 years later, I meet Daniel Jones in Atlanta at the Super Bowl. So someone says to him, hey, you need to meet Big Daddy, blah, 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 blah. Well, we meet, and then he says to me, he goes, everybody calls you Big Daddy? I go, well, listen, my real name is Rich Salgado. He goes, wait a minute. He goes, you're not related to Jim Salgado, right? Cool. I said, yeah, that's my kid brother. He goes, oh, man. I go, yeah, and I played it off, but I said to him, like, yep, you left my brother at the altar.
Oh, that's great. That's good how sometimes you could hide under the Big Daddy, but then like, oh, I guess I am.
Yeah, it was kind of funny, and ever since then we kind of like hit it off, and
oh, that's great.
He's a great kid, and we text back and forth, and
awesome.
And him and I'll tell you, I feel bad for him, but I wish him all the well as Sam Darnold. I had a relationship with him as well, and I told him, I said, look, sometimes change is good, and you're a great quarterback with a lot of time left.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was signed at 20 years old. He couldn't even have a beer to celebrate.
Yeah, I said you will do great, and I will be cheering from afar for you.
Yeah,
you deserve it, and good things happen to good people. So.
Yeah, I agree. I loved Sam. He did like several Zoom one-on-ones with me last year. And I met up with him and did a lot of one-on-ones. He was great. That class, him and Saquon that year, like that was my first year at Fox 5. And it's just, and it's like now Sam's gone, so I feel bad. But they've been great, just their availability and the people that they're surrounded with. They call me up and let me know some things. And I'm able to do interviews. I just had Saquon on my show 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, so I was a little bummed, but I'm excited to see what this kid Zach Wilson can do. We shall see. He's a spark plug. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got a little insight from Merrill Hodge because Merrill knows him very well, and he's excited for him. And I think, listen, he's got a massive offensive line in front of him now, so
they better stay healthy.
Yeah, stay healthy and find the open receivers. That's it. Yeah. So, it's going to be an exciting year of football, especially with the New York Giants and Jets. And I'm sure we'll run into each other at some point, somehow, someplace.
Yeah, because now we'll be allowed back there, in a greater capacity. So looking forward. I mean, there's still a lot of pretty strict rules, but I think it'll be a little better than last year.
Yeah. So I want you to tell all the listeners and viewers where to find you because, listen, all you sports fans out there, if you really want the real deal, Tina's the real deal. So follow her on social media.
So follow me on Twitter at Tina Cervasio, Instagram at Tina Cervasio. Sometimes I post like crazy. Sometimes I don't post for weeks. But I've been posting a lot of Olympic stuff today. I just did a story with Todd Frazier, of course, the Little League World Series champion, the Yankees and Mets player, from New Jersey, my home state. And he's in Tokyo right now, getting ready at 35 years old, getting ready to be an Olympian for the first time. So a really cool story I did with him before he left. And so that's where you can find me on social media. And if you're not in our viewing area in New York, where I'm on Channel 5 Sunday nights, 10:30, that's Sports Extra. Mm-hmm. And then Monday through Thursday, I'm on in the mornings, Good Day New York, starting 6:45, 7:45, sometimes 8:45. Depends on the news cycle. And then I'll do some special features in the 9 o'clock hour. And in the fall, on Saturdays, CBS Sports Network. So you can catch me nationally. I'll either be at an Army game, a UConn game, and maybe some Navy games. So Saturdays, you can find me on CBS Sports Network somewhere on the East Coast, somewhere, because I need to drive. Because we don't want any long trips because I got to get back for Sports Extra on Sunday. Somewhere on the East Coast, I'll be at a college football game.
Well, listen, folks, everyone now knows how to see, find, and listen and watch Tina. So, Tina, I have to say thank you again for coming on here with me. And I'm privileged and honored to have you as a guest. So thank you.
Big Daddy, thank you for having me. I mean, it's just such an honor to have gotten to know you and go Terps.
Absolutely. We need a big win out a year out of them. And
we do.
As Coach Lockley says, you better be locked in. So
he's such a nice guy. He deserves the success. Another Alabama Nick Saban free guy.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then don't forget, you still have an invitation to the Big Daddy Celebrity Golf Classic.
No, I have a show that day. I saw your date, and we're doing a special that I have to. I forget if it's live or if I'm taping it.
Either way,
so
you know the
upset.
date. If something changes, you know you're
Yes.
always invited, and
I will call you. I will let you know.
let me know. So
Yes.
for now, Big Daddy and friends, until next time when we get to bring another great guest like Tina to share the stories behind the stories is what we always say here at Big Daddy and Friends. So again, Tina, thank you so much, and we'll see each other soon on Big Daddy and Friends.
Thanks, Big Daddy.
You got it. Thank you.